Bungie has finally given us an update on what to expect for the near future of Destiny 2, and I'm not going to lie to y'all, it is not looking great. Now, I don't want to be all doom and gloom. There are a couple of silver linings, a couple potential fragments of hope to hang on to, but as my boy Gandalf says, it might just be a fool's hope. But if Aragorn and company could get the job done, maybe Bungie can figure out a way to get it done too. Who knows? So what is going on right now? Well, first of all, the Shadow and Order mid-expansion update is indeed confirmed to be delayed, which I don't think is a huge surprise to anyone. I think a lot of people saw this coming, considering that we didn't really get any comms on what would be coming in the update, which at this point in the release cycle, we probably would. In conjunction with the fact that its original release date of March 3rd was 2 days before the release date of Marathon, which is their next gigantic title that they needed all the focus and spotlight on. Doesn't really make sense to release those things within 2 days of each other. And obviously, at the current moment, Destiny is the side piece and getting the shorter end of the stick. Marathon takes precedent. As such, Shadow and Order is what gets moved. But I think what a lot of people weren't expecting is that it's not getting delayed until April. It's not getting delayed until May. It's getting delayed until June. June 9th specifically, which from right now is approximately a 3.5 month delay, which is crazy. Now, ordinarily, a lot of people might say, oh, well, Final Shape was delayed about that much, and it made Final Shape so much better, and we were chilling, and we were all good, so maybe this will be okay, too. I think it's worth noting, though, that when we had the Final Shape delay, we had the Into the Light update in that interim during that delay period to compensate, and it doesn't look like we're getting anything close to that in between now and the Shadow and Order. Doesn't really look like we're getting anything at all, to be honest. And in a state of the game where we already don't really have all that much to do, and we're at record low player counts and all that goodness, or badness, I suppose, that's a tough pill to swallow that we have to wait until June before we see anything noteworthy coming to Destiny. As a result of the delay, the reason they're doing it is so that with the update, they can include weapon tier upgrading, tier 5 stats for exotic armors, and the two silver linings, I would argue, that could potentially be a glimmer of hope: tiered gear to all raid and dungeon content, which we'll call a spade, that is incredible, and Pantheon 2.0, which potentially will also be incredible. If it's anywhere as good as OG Pantheon 1, which is one of the most beloved activities that we have ever had in Destiny, got so many people into raiding for the first time. I saw it myself. I saw how many people loved it. Could be a really, really fantastic thing to have in Destiny. Now, leading up to June 9th, when we will get all of those things, all we're really going to get is continued bug fixes, stability improvements, portal modifiers, which I don't think people really want to play the portal right now anyway, so I'm not really sure what portal modifiers are going to do to excite people. We have Guardian games in March, which, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed Guardian games last year, and I'll probably log in for Guardian games in March when it hits this year. But I really don't think Guardian Games is enough to move the needle to bring players back in droves or to really give people a sizable chunk of content to do leading up to Shadow and Order that is now delayed until June 9th. And a much more frequent Iron Banner cadence in April, which is nice, I guess, that we're finally getting Iron Banner back. But again, I really don't feel like Iron Banner is enough to move the needle all that significantly. The other thing they said in their update is that TWIDs, the This Week in Destiny, and Destiny social channels are going to be used primarily for live game content and community activation. So I think they're just trying to set the precedent that, like, hey guys, you don't expect to see the roadmap, don't expect to see any state of the game, don't expect to see any updates on the future franchise for the game, anything gigantic in any of our social posts or any of our TWIDs, just so that way we're not all like, oh, is this TWID going to finally bring up the roadmap? Is this TWID going to finally talk about the state of the game? So I think they're just kind of saying, like, hey guys, setting that precedent, which is great. I appreciate that they're doing that. I just wish that they would have done it like 4 months ago or something like that. Now, before I get into my thoughts on this and kind of what the plans for the channel are moving forward and what this means for the state of Destiny and what to expect and all that goodness, two things. One, if you're optimistic about these changes, if you hear stuff like tier 5 stats for exotic armor, tiered gear to all raid and dungeon content, Pantheon 2.0, and that's enough to keep you interested in the game, or that's enough to bring you back to the game as someone who's a lapsed player already, that's incredible, and I'm so happy for you. even though I personally am a little bit let down by this announcement and I feel like it's not enough and I'm frustrated and I know there's a lot of other players in that boat, if you personally are excited, please don't let anyone take that away from you. Your joy is 100% valid, even if other people do not share in it. And I hope that you continue having fun for as long as humanly possible. And I wish I was in the same boat as you. But I got to be honest with myself, I'm just not. Frankly, and I would imagine a lot of other people in the same boat, I'm feeling a wide range of emotions from frustration to feeling let down, disappointment, sorrow, and I'm sure some people out there are probably maybe even feeling a little bit angry as well. And whilst those emotions and feelings are completely valid, that does not make it okay whatsoever in any capacity to unleash those emotions on other people or to use other people as punching bags. Please do not go threaten developers. Do not go harass developers. Do not go harass whatever. Don't take your anger out on other people. Process it yourself. There is a good way to be frustrated and feel anger and feel sorrow and feel upset. And then there's a bad way to do it. And please don't take the bad approach. That all being said, my response to this announcement was as follows. I said this to Bungie. These changes sound nice and all, but at this point, I don't think this is enough to save the game and bring most players back. These are all things that people were begging for half a year ago, and had they been implemented then, I think we would be in a different situation. Like, these are all a ton of these things people were asking for right when the Edge of Fate launched, right after the Edge of Fate launch, basically 7 or 8 months ago. If a lot of these changes, tier 5 to exotic armor, tier gearing for raid and dungeon content and stuff like this, if we're being frank, I think these things should have launched with the update. Would be the best time for them to launch, and the second best time would be shortly after the update when everyone was asking for them. A lot of people were still around playing the game then, and if a lot of these things were added back then while people were still in the game, I think that might have been enough to keep a lot of people around. But we're in a much more dire situation now than we were back then because player numbers have bled out too much, and I think it's going to take way more than changes that people were requesting 8 months ago to bring all the people back who have already left. Furthermore, to still hear nothing significant about the multi-year roadmap or the state of the game that was promised 4 months ago, or anything about the big picture plans for the franchise of Destiny, is so frustrating. I completely understand that these types of things probably take a lot of time, but the community has felt so led on for so long due to the lack of communication and expectation setting when it comes to estimated times of delivery on these items. Everyone has been under the impression that these things have been right around the corner week after week for the last 6 months, and it's just, for more like 3 or 4 months, not 6 months, but in any case, it's just like death by 1,000 cuts every single week that we hear nothing about these items. Additionally, to wait until June for anything noteworthy, I know we're technically getting Guardian games in March and we're getting Iron Banner in April, but I just don't really consider those to be noteworthy items, at least not compared to like when we had the final shape delay, we had Into the Light. And no, I'm not expecting we get Into the Light every single time we get a delay for something like that. But the game is basically already on life support. Everyone has run out of things to do. Everyone has already done everything in Renegades, and there's just not really that much replayable gameplay at the current moment. There's not that much grindable stuff at the moment in Destiny. People are already not playing the game at all. And so to have to wait until June, 3.5 months, for anything noteworthy feels like a borderline death sentence, considering that player numbers are already at rock bottom and will continue to fall so long as we get no significant game updates or significant communications on the future of the franchise. It feels like the game is going to enter a state of dormancy more than it already has, and things like Tier 5 exotic stats and game-wide gear tiering, while nice, those are great changes. I don't want to take anything away from that. Those are great changes, but I don't think they're going to be enough to dig us out of this hole that we're in, and I don't think that they're going to be enough to bring players back in droves that have already left after the final shape, who have left during the episodic model, who left after Edge of Fate, and who left after Renegades. I mean, absolutely no disrespect, to kind of like call back to my previous point, not trying to come after anyone, not trying to harass anyone, not trying to threaten anyone or anything like that, absolutely under any circumstance. But I feel like it would be a disservice to myself, a disservice to the community, and a disservice to Bungie to give anything less than honest and genuine feedback. Because as a Destiny player, I am hurting big time right now, and I expected way more and would have liked to see it communicated way sooner, and I know a lot of the community feels the exact same way. I do feel important to make it as clear as possible, though, that I feel that the changes promised will not be enough for a lot of players. It might be enough for a couple of them, and for those players, I'm thrilled that they're getting what they want, and I'm thrilled that they're happy and excited to play Destiny again, but I don't think this is going to be enough to bring the game back into a flourishing state. So if this is all that's planned for the future and to save the current state of the game, I hope they reconsider and find ways to do more. And I get that that's a tall ask. I get that that's way easier said than done for me to sit in my chair back here and be like, yeah, just make more content. Yeah, just make the game better. Yeah, just add more stuff. Fix all the problems. I get it. But it's kind of a necessary thing that we need to do right now for the game to find its footing again. That was my response. Now, to expound upon that a little bit, I think we got into the position that we're currently in, starting with kind of right after the final shape, leading up to and really escalated in the Edge of Fate. One of the primary problems that a lot of players were feeling with the game, and we heard this complaint for probably 2 to 3 years leading up to the Edge of Fate, was we are sick of more Destiny. We want new Destiny. And what players meant by that was they were just kind of getting sick and tired over the very structured seasonal model of expansion comes out. We play the campaign, we do the expansion activity, some of us do the raid, we get all the loot, we increase our power by 10 to 50 levels, and then we do the season, we do fill out whatever the 3x5 grid is that gives us the seasonal perks, and then we get our artifact level up, and that's a new season, and then we do that all again, that's a new season, and we do it all again. Players were sick of that. They were. And they were getting bored of that core foundational gameplay loop and grind. And so Bungie was kind of in a situation where they were like, hey, we got to try and mix it up. And that's what the 2 expansion, 2 major update in conjunction with all of the core foundational changes that came in Edge of Fate made an attempt to do. And credit where it's due, I appreciate that they tried to mix up the core foundation of the game. The unfortunate reality, though, is just that they kind of missed on everything that they tried to hit the mark on. They thought players were going to like all of these changes, and we just didn't. And I wish that we were in a situation where, similar to how they completely shifted and mixed up the core foundation of the game in Forsaken, and they absolutely nailed a bullseye on all of those changes, I wish that happened in Edge of Fate, but it sucks that just the opposite happened. And it broke the game in a lot of ways. It broke the game by making the portal the front page, the front menu of the game, when honestly, I feel like the director should have remained the front page of the game, and the portal should have been some sort of sub-menu that was seldom utilized and utilized primarily for brand new players and returning players who had some confusion navigating the directory, whereas veteran players and after players had gotten back into the game and found their cadence again, primary navigation would be through the directory. It just feels way more Destiny. The portal doesn't really feel like Destiny. Additionally, the power grind was effectively ruined. Power grind and progression was effectively ruined, and it was made extremely monotonous and grindy and boring, and players did not like it one bit. But probably the most important way that the game was broken was by effectively soft setting all of the legacy content in the entire game by not making it gear tiered. Not being able to earn tier gear through any raid, any dungeon, any campaign, any mission, any location, destination, blah, blah, blah. Excuse me. Is probably one of the biggest blows that the game has suffered in the past couple of years. Now, the best time to have added gear tiering to all legacy raids and dungeons would have been along with the release of the Edge of Fate. And frankly, I don't really understand why Edge of Fate didn't release with retroactively applied gear tiering to all old content. I also don't know why it didn't release with tier 5 stats for exotic armors. I have no idea why the limit on those was tier 2 or tier 3 or whatever they are. That still doesn't make sense to me to this day, but I digress. The second best time to fix all of these things would have been immediately after the release of the expansion, where the entire community was clamoring for all of these things. It has probably been the most unanimous I've ever seen the Destiny community, and the most vocal I've ever seen the Destiny community, or at least vocal in a unified fashion, in saying, Bungie, please add gear tiering to all of the old legacy raid and dungeon content. We have no reason to do legacy raid and dungeons, and it's very frustrating. Everyone was saying this in August, like a month maximum after the Edge of Fate launched. And so I think it's really, like, it's great that they're doing it now, but it's very frustrating because it feels like, dude, like we've been asking for this for 8 months. And if those things were done when we were asking for them originally, then yeah, like maybe a lot of us would have stuck around if there were like active plans and it was announced that they were working to do that stuff when we were all requesting it in August and September and all back then, right after the release of Edge of Fate. I think it would have done a lot to maintain players and keep a lot of people around. But I think players are sitting here right now. It's like, yeah, we were asking for this half a year ago, and now the game is as close to dead as it's ever been. And just now, the big announcement, the big plan, breaking radio silence to tell us that you're finally doing something that we requested and we begged for and we asked for all that time ago, that frankly, if I'm being completely honest, probably should have never had to have been asked for and probably should have been applied to all of the raids and dungeons with the release of Edge of Fate anyway. It's extremely frustrating, and it makes players feel really unheard that it took this long for this to happen. And it kind of draws up the meme of like the "we are listening," and it makes a lot of players feel like they're not being listened to. It's very, very frustrating. I also feel like the feelings and frustrations that are going on right now become exacerbated with the roadmap announcement, which I think has done, honestly, at this point, a lot more damage than it has done good. What initially began as a beacon of hope and a glimmer of, oh, they do have grand plans for Destiny. They do have big plans for Destiny. And I'm not saying that they don't. I'm sure they do, and they're still working on them. But the roadmap announcement was followed by borderline radio silence because after its initial mention, it was only brought up like 2 to 3 times over a period of 4 months, and we still have no idea when we're going to see it. We have no idea what's going to be on it in any capacity. And so not only is the amount of time it's taken to see anything roadmap related, like kind of unacceptable in my opinion, but so is the lack of communication and expectation setting regarding its arrival. Because when something takes, and what's even more, is when something takes this long, players can't help but feel like it's because something gigantic and revolutionary is being cooked up, right? If you're sitting there, you're like, oh, like, whoa, they announced this roadmap back in whatever it was, September or November, and it's taken them this long. There must be some crazy stuff coming on it. There must be some crazy things coming to the game that are going to be absolutely revolutionary and save the game, you know, stuff like game-wide core systems changes, Forsaken level updates, maybe even like a reprise Wrath of the Machine. Maybe we'll see a Destiny 3 on the roadmap or something. Like that's what happens to the community when they wait this long for something like this, because if it's taken that long to get a roadmap out, like the brain can't help but be like, man, there must be something crazy going on here. Otherwise, it wouldn't be taking this long, right? And so to see, and I know the roadmap has not been announced or anything like that, but like for them to finally break radio silence and the big shebang is the fixes that we've been requesting for almost a year, or half a year rather, sorry. It's just kind of a crushing blow. Like it stings to kind of sit here and wait and wait and wait and wait and hear nothing and just think like, oh, it could be any week now. That's why they haven't told us anything, because maybe they're almost done, or oh, they're working on it so long, maybe something big's coming on it, and that's this, and it's like, and we still don't know when the roadmap is coming. It's demoralizing. Another, and kind of have to address the elephant at the room at this point. Marathon is blinding right now as a Destiny player. I don't want it to fail or anything. I'm not like anti-Marathon. I'm not like spitefully boycotting it because I'm like, oh, Marathon killed Destiny, I hate it. Because I don't know. That seems goofy to me, I guess. I like, full disclosure, I fully intend to give it a try. And I hope I like it. I hope I like Marathon. I hope it does well. I hope I like it enough to want to make videos on it and to make content on it and make guides and builds and stuff like that or what have you. I'm terrible at PvP, so we'll see how that goes, but I digress. But as a mainly Destiny player, and I know a lot of Destiny players are in the same boat, it is demoralizing to see how much attention Marathon is getting while it feels like Destiny doesn't even get a crumb. And I feel like Marathon popping off will free up dev resources to come back to Destiny. I feel like that's the most ideal situation. But at this point, I struggle to like be confident in Destiny or in Bungie's investment in Destiny for the future, because we haven't heard anything. So it's like now I'm at the point where like I don't even know what's going to happen. Like now I'm in Like at first, like a lot of people were saying like, oh, they don't want Marathon to succeed because if Marathon pops off, then Bungie's going to abandon Destiny fully because they'll just focus on Marathon because they'll be doing so well. And before I was like, nah, you guys are crazy. They love Destiny. They're never going to abandon Destiny. And that might still be true. But with the amount of radio silence that we've been getting on Destiny, and for this to be the big, gigantic announcement that, you know, the first major communication that we've had in months, it's like, makes me wonder, like, I mean, maybe there is a little bit of legitimacy to what those people are saying. I don't know. One thing that will be certain, though, without a shadow of a doubt, is that along with the content vaulting that happened in Beyond Light, the letdown that was Lightfall, and the blow that was struck by the Edge of Fate, and all of its subsequent core game updates that missed, Marathon is going to be added to the list of wounds that Destiny players feel whenever they want to try to trust Bungie enough to give Destiny another try due to the seemingly broken promise of Marathon will not affect the development of Destiny 2. Now, admittedly, I don't know with absolute certainty that it did. I'm not in the building. I don't work there. I don't have inside sources or anything like that. But it's really hard to look at everything and feel like it didn't affect the development of Destiny 2 at this point. And if it indeed didn't affect the development of Destiny 2 and Destiny fell into this state all on its own with no outside influence, that's honestly kind of an even more harrowing reality if I'm being real. There is, like I said, though, a silver lining, in my opinion. These updates that are coming are genuinely good things for the game and create a lot of retroactively replayable content. I don't know exactly how many raids and dungeons we have in the game, but I think it's upwards of 15. It might even be close to 20. And so the fact that we have an actually good reason now to go and run through all of the previous raids and, you know, experience peak Destiny, which in my opinion is the raiding and dungeon content and chilling with clannies and chilling with friends and making new relationships and meeting people and stuff like that. That's gigantic. I do not want to be understated that this change is indeed incredible. And Pantheon, if they get it right, which all they have to do is basically do the same thing they did for Pantheon 1, if they get it right, Pantheon absolutely bangs. But my big concern is that with this much waiting, is it going to be enough? If these things were added, like I said, 6 months ago, 7 months ago, 8 months ago, then I'd say, yeah, it definitely would be enough. It would probably be enough to keep the game feeling pretty healthy, and it would actually probably change the tune of what a lot of players are feeling towards Destiny right now. But like I said, maintaining a player is infinitely easier than convincing them to come back, right? It's way easier to keep a player on the game than it is to convince them to reinstall the game after they have already severed that tie. And I'm not so sure that with all the damage that's been done recently, that these changes will be enough to get people to reinstall the game. I hope they are. I really hope they are. I love Destiny and I want to see it to do well. I want to see it pop off again. But I'm just not entirely convinced that people will be chomping at the bit to run Vault of Glass again for what all intents and purposes is for their 4th or 5th iteration of Fatebringer at this point. Like, we've gotten Fatebringer in D1, and then we got Age of Triumph Fatebringer, and then we got Fatebringer in D2, and then we got Depth Fatebringer, and then we got the Craftable Fatebringer, and now we're getting the Tier 5 Fatebringer, baby. And it's like, I don't know if like a lot of players are going to look at that like it kind of feels like that illusion isn't going to be enough to do it anymore. Which kind of brings us to the overall future of Destiny and why I feel like that illusion is kind of breaking a little bit recently. The Shattered Cycle and the Alchemist expansions and the multi-year roadmap beyond that, which is what the future is looking like right now, and what I want to talk about. Destiny has always survived by enticing us to run the current content and get all the current gear and make our current builds and whatnot so that we can get ready for whatever the next fight is, whatever the next big baddie is, whatever the next expansion is, and all that goodness. And right now, it feels like there isn't a next fight. And if I'm being completely candid, I would say it hasn't really truly felt like there has been a next fight since The Witness fell. And I don't know what content or story or villain Bungie can put in front of us that will make us excited to farm loot and chase god rolls and build craft and gear up again. But they need to figure it out and absolutely hype it the F up before we arrive at June 9th when Shadow and Order launches. Because If I don't have some dude on a poster with a wanted sign that I am hype as heck to go and take down, then I don't know how, like, juiced I'm going to be about going and farming a Fatebringer that's a couple percentage points better than the one I already have. And if they don't do that, then I can't help but feel like the overall interest in tiered raid and dungeon gear alongside a Pantheon 2, I feel like it won't be nearly as enticing as Bungie might hope it will be. Because players don't want to mindlessly farm loot just for the sake of farming loot. They want to farm it so that they can become legend in content against enemies that they otherwise wouldn't be able to topple without it. That's one of the reasons that I think Into the Light was so successful. It wasn't just because everyone was so excited from the reprised weapons and all that stuff and the reprised gear and all that goodness with the with Onslaught and with Pantheon and all that stuff. They were hyped to grind gear Into the Light because right after Into the Light, we had the Witness sitting right there in front of us. And so everyone's sitting here and Into the Light, and they're like, I need that Mountaintop so I can use it. I need the Recluse so I can use it against the Witness. Give me the Hammerhead. Give me this. Give me that. So I can give me the Hue Clip Luna so I can use it against the Witness. And it's like, we don't have any. I know technically the 9 are the central villain of the franchise right now, but like they just don't feel like they're fourth dimensional. I don't even really know what that means. Like, how do we even fight them? Like, they're not. It's like the scene in The Wolf of Wall Street, where it's Matthew McConaughey, and it's like, it's fairy dust. It's not real. It's a fugazi, it's a wazi, it's a woozy. You know, it's like I feel like I don't have a guy in front of me that I can beat up, and the Witness was a guy that I had in front of me that I could beat up, and Callus was a guy that I had in front of me that I could beat up, and Savathu was a guy in front of me that I could beat up, and I don't have anyone in front of me that I can beat up anymore. And if I don't have anyone in front of me that I can beat up, then why do I care about getting the guns whose primary purpose is to beat people up? You know? That was mega off script, by the way. I mean, I have like a hard script and some bullet points, but in any case, I really want to keep playing Destiny. And I always will play Destiny until the server shut down or until they just stop completely adding content to the game, period. But at the current moment, with the current state of the game, I've already been bored with Destiny because I have nothing to do in the game right now. I haven't had anything to do in the game for the past month. And now we have another 3.5 months where we're going to basically have nothing to do. I'll hop on for Guardian games, but that's probably about it. And that feeling is like, I don't see that feeling changing until June 9th, during which, and I'll absolutely hop on for June 9th. I'm going to be there on June 9th. I'm going to be making the Pantheon raid guides. Or the Pantheon 2.0 raid guides. I might even make raid guides for like the old raids. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be in there like swimwear. Don't you worry. I'm going to be doing the Pantheon 2.0, and I'm going to be doing the tiered raid and dungeon and all that good stuff and getting all that loot. But until June 9th, probably not going to see a ton of Destiny 2 content from me. I've been playing a lot of Destiny 1 recently, which I've been really enjoying. So I'm probably going to be continuing that Destiny 1 playthrough, and I'll have videos coming on that soon. Going to look at doing the Warframe new player series with my wife, who has never played Warframe before, and I'm sorry I keep pushing that back. The technical setup for that, and like it turns out routing audio and visuals and cameras from 2 different PCs all into one PC and putting it all in one stream without any significant latency or hiccups in audio or visuals. It's kind of complicated. I'm still kind of trying to figure it all out. So sorry I've been pushing that back. I've been wanting to experiment with a little bit more Magic the Gathering content. I've done one Magic the Gathering video on my channel, and it did like decently well. I did like a commander deck build, and I have like 14 commander decks, so maybe I'll do a video on another one of my commander decks or something like that. Some people seem to like that. And then like I said, I'm going to try out Marathon. I'm definitely going to try out Marathon. I hope that I like Marathon. I don't know if I'm going to like Marathon because I typically don't enjoy extraction shooters. I'm terrible at PvP, but I'm absolutely going to try it. And if I do like it, I'll probably make a decent bit of content about it. I'll probably definitely at least make some content about whatever the secret puzzles are, the secret endgame puzzles and stuff like that. Because if there is one thing Bungie always nails, it's the secret puzzle goodness, the Owl Sector type stuff, the Corridors of Time, Chestiny, all that type of goodness. I'm gonna be all over those Marathon secrets for sure, at the very least. And you know, other than those things, I'll still be live on my stream, twitch.tv/Mactics. Would love to see y'all stop by. I'll be there every weekday, barring, you know, if I have something going on that day or something like that. But I'll be doing all these things on stream, and maybe I'll even try some other stuff. Maybe I'll replay the OG Halo games because I love those. Maybe I'll play the OG Gears of War games. Maybe I'll replay the old Modern Warfare games. Modern Warfare 2, that one's a banger. Let me tell you. Ramirez, get to the Burger Town. That one's a banger, okay? And, maybe relive some childhood nostalgia of those old OG franchise campaigns and stuff like that. But, yeah. I still have a couple of Destiny 2 build videos that I'll probably do over the next 4 months as well, because for those who do want to continue playing Destiny over, this interim where there's not really anything to do, I don't want to leave you guys with nothing. So I'm gonna do a little bit of stuff. I'm not gonna force myself to like burn out making Destiny content when I don't want to be making Destiny content, or Destiny 2 content at least, but I'll try to get like a build video or two in a month. It's maybe going to be my target for those of you who are going to stick around playing Destiny and I want to leave you guys hanging, I love you guys. I want to make sure you got some good builds to use and enjoy. But yeah, that's where we're at right now, and it's a tough situation. It's sticky. Hopefully, Pantheon 2.0 can bang. Hopefully, tiered raid and dungeon gear is enough to bring a lot of people back. Hopefully, we get some more direction and announcements and information about the full future of the Destiny franchise before we hit June 9th, so people feel like they have a big baddie that they need to gear up for to take down, so that we feel a little bit more inspired, I guess. I don't really know, but yeah, if this is the beginning of the end of Destiny, and it continues to be only downhill from here, then it's been an honor. And I appreciate enjoying and experiencing this game with all of you. So thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a great day.